I've always preferred driving at night. Not because I'm reckless or because I like the danger, mostly because nighttime feels honest. During the day, everything competes for your attention. People talk over each other. Phones buzz. Roads feel crowded even when they aren't. But after midnight, especially when it's raining, the world quiets down in a way that feels intentional, like it's giving you permission to exist without explaining yourself. That night, the rain had been falling for hours before I ever touched my keys. Not a storm, not thunder, just a steady, patient rain that soaked into everything and stayed there. The kind of rain that makes streetlights glow and roads shine like black glass. I didn't have a destination. I rarely do on night drives. I just wanted motion. Just wanted to sit behind the wheel and let the wipers move back and forth until my thoughts slowed enough to stop hurting. By the time I merged onto the highway, the rain was heavy enough that the world beyond my windshield looked smeared, like I was seeing it through wet paint. The wipers settled into a steady rhythm almost immediately. Left, right, left, right. I didn't turn on the radio. I never do when I drive at night in the rain. Silence makes it easier to notice when something changes. The highway was nearly empty. A few distant trucks far ahead, their taillights glowing faint red through the rain, and nothing behind me but darkness. I set my speed just under the limit and relaxed into the drive, hands loose on the wheel, shoulders dropping as the tension of the day finally began to drain out of me. And I don't remember exactly when I first noticed the headlights behind me. At first, they were just part of the background. Two faint points of light in the rearview mirror, far back, distorted by rain. Cars come and go on highways. That's normal. I didn't pay them any attention until I realized they hadn't moved. Mile after mile, curve after curve, the headlights stayed exactly where they were. Not getting closer, not falling behind. Just holding the same distance like they were locked in place. I sped up slightly without thinking. They sped up too. I slowed back down. They matched me again. A tight feeling formed in my chest, subtle but impossible to ignore. I told myself it was coincidence. Rain messes with depth perception. The other driver was probably just being cautious. I checked my mirrors, changed lanes, waited. The headlights followed. I laughed quietly to myself, embarrassed by how quickly my mind had jumped to conclusions. It was late. I was tired. Your brain looks for patterns when it doesn't have enough stimulation. Still, I kept checking the mirror. Every glance showed the same thing. Same distance, same position. Patient. The highway curved through a stretch of forest with no streetlights, only darkness pressing in on both sides. My headlights swept across the shoulder, and that's when I saw the car pulled over ahead. It sat half on the shoulder, half in the grass, angled toward the trees. The hood was up, rain pouring down into the engine bay. No hazard lights, no movement, no one standing nearby. Just a car sitting there, like it had been abandoned in the middle of a thought. As I passed it, something tightened in my chest. Not fear, recognition. Like I'd seen that exact scene before, even though I knew I hadn't. I checked my mirror. The headlights behind me slowed. Then they stopped. They pulled in behind the stranded car and turned off completely. The sudden darkness behind me felt heavier than before, like the road had closed its eyes. I stared into the mirror longer than I should have, waiting for hazard lights to flick on, waiting for a door to open, waiting for proof that someone normal was stepping out to help another normal person. Nothing happened. Just rain swallowing the shoulder and two motionless shapes in the dark. I told myself they'd stop to help. I told myself that meant I didn't have to. A few minutes later, my GPS chimed softly. The screen refreshed and rerouted me off the highway. A narrow county road appeared, unfamiliar, marked as a detour due to road conditions. I frowned. The highway ahead looked fine. No cones, no flashing signs, no traffic slowing down. Still, the detour wasn't long. According to the map, it would reconnect me after a few miles. I hesitated. Then I took the exit. The moment my tires left the highway, the sound of the rain changed. It didn't get louder. It got closer. The road narrowed immediately. The pavement felt rougher. The reflectors vanished. Trees leaned in on both sides, branches arching overhead like they were trying to meet. My headlights didn't reach as far here. The darkness beyond them felt thick, almost solid. I glanced down at the GPS. The arrow froze. A second later, the screen went black. At the same time, my phone lost signal. My heart rate picked up. I slowed down, scanning the road for a place to turn around, but there was nowhere safe. Ditches lined both sides, trees pressed tight against the shoulder. Every curve felt sharper than the last. I told myself I'd find a better spot ahead. That's how you end up deeper than you plan. Headlights appeared in my mirror again. Closer this time, dimmer, yellowed. They hovered just behind my car, perfectly centered. I couldn't see the vehicle clearly through the rain, only the suggestion of something boxy and low. I sped up. They stayed. I slowed. They stayed. That was when I realized this wasn't the same car from the highway. This one hadn't stopped. This one had waited. My mouth went dry. I tried calling someone, anyone. No signal. The rain intensified, drumming against the roof hard enough to drown out my breathing. The wipers sped up, barely keeping the windshield clear. The road dipped sharply, and at the bottom, my headlights caught a figure standing near the center line. A person. They stood facing away from me, rain soaking their clothes, completely still. I slammed the brakes and skidded to a stop several yards back. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. I cracked the window and asked if they needed help. They turned slowly. Their face looked normal in the worst possible way. Pale, empty, unfinished. Their eyes reflected no light at all. And when they spoke, their mouth didn't move. The voice came from inside my head. "You didn't stop last time." The headlights behind me surged closer, and that's where everything finally broke. I don't remember making the decision to drive again after that night. That's what bothers me most when I think back on it. There wasn't a moment where I weighed the risk or talked myself into it. There wasn't a promise to be careful or a plan to avoid certain roads. One day I just realized I was behind the wheel again. Rain tapping softly against the windshield like it always had. Wipers moving back and forth in that familiar rhythm. At first, nothing happened, and that scared me more than if something had. Days passed without incident, then weeks. I stayed in well-lit areas. I avoided highways at night. I took longer routes just to stay on roads that felt familiar. Every time it rained, my body reacted before my mind did, shoulders tightening, jaw clenching, eyes checking mirrors without permission. But nothing followed me. No yellow headlights, no figures, no strange detours. Slowly that night started to feel less real. That's how fear fades when it doesn't get reinforced. It doesn't disappear. It just softens until it feels like a story you once heard instead of something that happened to you. I started sleeping better. I stopped listening for engines outside my window. I even turned the radio back on while driving sometimes, letting quiet music fill the space where my thoughts used to spiral. Rain became rain again, just weather, just sound. The first sign that it hadn't ended came quietly. I was stopped at a red light late one evening, rain misting lightly across the glass. The GPS screen flickered, just for a moment. When it steadied, the route line was still there, but the street name beneath it was wrong. Close, but not right. One letter off, one extra space. I stared at it until the light turned green, then drove on, telling myself it was a glitch. Technology fails all the time. Still, I checked my mirrors more than usual that night. The second sign came a week later, and I almost missed it. I opened my back door to grab a jacket I'd left on the seat and noticed the floor mat was damp. Not soaked, just damp enough to feel cold against my fingers. There was dirt pressed into the fabric, ground in like someone had stood there for a while. The shape wasn't clear enough to call it a footprint, but it was bigger than my own shoe. Facing forward, I stared at it longer than I should have, my mind scrambling for a normal explanation. Rainwater tracked in, old spill, anything. I scrubbed the mat until my hands ached, until the smell of cleaner filled the car. When I was done, it looked normal again. I told myself that was the end of it. That night, it rained harder than it had in weeks. I sat on my couch listening to it hit the windows, trying to focus on the TV, but my attention kept drifting. The sound of rain no longer soothed me. It pressed on my chest, slow and steady, like a reminder I couldn't quite place. My phone buzzed with a notification I didn't recognize. A navigation alert. I hadn't opened a map. I hadn't searched for anything. The screen showed a familiar blue route line and a simple instruction beneath it. Continue straight. I turned the phone face down. The vibration stopped immediately. I didn't sleep that night. After that, small things began stacking up. Things that meant nothing on their own, but together felt like pressure. My GPS would turn on when I got in the car, already showing a route I hadn't chosen. The radio would cut to static briefly on certain roads, then return to normal. Street names would look wrong at a glance, then correct themselves when I checked again. Rain made it worse. Every storm felt heavier, closer, like it was narrowing the world again. I stopped driving at night unless I absolutely had to. But life doesn't care about your rules. Sometimes work runs late. Sometimes stores close early. Sometimes you don't realize it's raining until you're already on the road. The next real incident happened on a night I hadn't planned to drive far at all. A friend called me late, stranded near a stretch of highway, asking for a ride. I hesitated longer than I should have. Rain tapped lightly against my window, soft but persistent. I almost said no. Almost. I told myself this was different. Early night, light rain, short drive. No reason to spiral. Fear only has power if you give it meaning. I grabbed my keys. The drive there felt normal. Too normal. Streets wet and shining under streetlights. Occasional cars passing. Music low in the background. I even caught myself relaxing, my shoulders loosening as the minutes passed. That's when my rearview mirror dimmed. Not darkness. Blocked light, like something had passed behind me and stayed there longer than it should have. I checked the lane. Empty. I checked the side streets. Nothing. I told myself it was rain distortion. Headlights bend strangely in weather. I'd read that somewhere. At the pickup spot, my friend wasn't there. He texted me asking where I was. I told him I was parked across from the address he gave me. He said that wasn't possible. He was standing outside and couldn't see my car. I turned slowly, scanning the street. I was alone. No houses with lights on, no movement, just rain and silence. I sent him a screenshot of my GPS. He replied a full minute later, "That's not where I am." I looked at the street sign through the rain. The letters were clear enough to read and wrong. Same font, same spacing, different word. Close enough that I wouldn't have noticed if I wasn't already looking for it. My chest tightened. I put the car in drive and rolled forward slowly. The street curved gently to the right, too gently, like it was trying not to draw attention to itself. Trees closed in on both sides. Houses disappeared. The pavement narrowed. I stopped. The engine idled. The rain sounded louder immediately, like it had been waiting. My phone buzzed again. "Are you messing with me?" I looked in the mirror. Yellow headlights flickered to life behind me. Not approaching. Already there. I didn't scream. I didn't freeze. I felt something colder than panic settle into me. Recognition. This wasn't new. It was continuation. The headlights stayed exactly where they were as I moved. I didn't need to test it anymore. I already knew. The road ahead curved into darkness that felt thicker than night. I thought about turning around. I thought about stopping completely. Both thoughts felt wrong. A handprint appeared on my rear window again, blooming slowly through condensation. Clearer than before, more deliberate, as if whatever was behind me had learned how much pressure to use. The voice didn't speak yet. It didn't need to. The air inside the car felt heavier, like the windows had been sealed from the inside. I drove. I always drive. That's the part of me it understands best. The road looped. I passed the same tree twice, the same mailbox, the same broken reflector in the ditch. Every loop felt shorter, faster, like the road was tightening around me. The headlights never moved. Figures began appearing closer to the pavement now, no longer hidden deep in the trees. Some looked like people frozen mid-step. Others didn't look like people at all. The voice returned soft and patient. "You remember more each time?" I swallowed hard. "What do you want? To finish the ride?" That's when I saw the stranded car again. It waited on the shoulder ahead, hood up, rain pouring down into the engine bay. Exactly as before. As I slowed, I noticed something I hadn't seen the first time. The inside light was on. The driver's door was open. The back seat was wet, as if someone had just gotten out. My hands shook violently. "I didn't stop," I whispered. "I never stopped." The voice felt closer now, like it was leaning forward from the back seat. "You slowed," it said. "That's enough." The truth settled in slowly, like water filling a container. The road didn't trap people by force. It didn't chase. It didn't threaten. It waited for hesitation, for kindness, for curiosity, for that moment where a human being considers stopping instead of leaving. That's when it gets in. The license plate on the stranded car caught my headlights as I passed. It was mine. The highway lights appeared again like a mercy I didn't trust. I burst onto smooth pavement, signals snapping back, mirrors empty. I drove until my hands went numb and my eyes burned. I didn't go home. I drove until sunrise washed the world of its shadows. When daylight finally settled, the fear dulled. That's what daylight does. It makes impossible things feel small. I parked in a grocery store lot and slept in my car with the windows cracked, rain drying into streaks along the glass. When I woke up, there was mud on the inside of my rear door. A single footprint facing inward. I don't pick people up anymore. I don't slow down for stranded cars. I don't trust roads that curve too gently or street names that almost match. When rain falls at night, I stay still if I can. Because motion is an invitation. But sometimes when I close my eyes, I feel the car idling. I feel the wipers moving, and I hear the voice again, calm and certain. You're still driving. And I know that one night, when I'm tired enough, or lonely enough, or just human enough, I won't notice when the road changes, and I'll slow down, and that will be enough. After that night, I stopped pretending I was in control of when it happened. I didn't say that out loud at first. I didn't even let myself think it directly. But it showed up in the way I lived. I stopped making plans that required driving after dark. I stopped agreeing to help people late at night. I checked weather forecasts obsessively, not because I cared about rain, but because rain felt like a condition, a signal, something that made the world more permeable. Still, the nights kept coming. Life has a way of wearing down the rules you make for yourself. You get tired, you get distracted. You convince yourself that you've been fine long enough that the danger must have passed. That's how it works. Not with force, but with patience. The road understands patience. The first time I noticed that something had changed, it was during the day. I was driving to work in clear weather, sun low in the sky, traffic steady, nothing unusual. I stopped at a red light and glanced up at my rearview mirror out of habit. For a moment, just a moment, the reflection didn't match the world behind me. The cars were there, but the depth felt wrong. Like the space between us was deeper than it should have been. Then it corrected itself. I told myself it was glare, but my heart didn't slow down right away. After that, the boundaries between day and night started to blur. Rain wasn't required anymore. Darkness wasn't required. The feeling came anyway, that quiet pressure, like something sitting just outside the edge of my awareness, waiting for me to acknowledge it. I started losing small pieces of time. Nothing dramatic, no blackouts, just gaps. I'd arrive somewhere and not remember the last few turns. I'd park my car and realize I couldn't recall the drive at all. The radio would be on a station I never listened to. The GPS would be running, even though I didn't remember turning it on. Once, I found my car parked on a street I didn't recognize. Engine off, hazard lights blinking. I was sitting in the driver's seat with my hands on the wheel, like I'd just stopped. I checked my phone. No missed calls, no messages, no directions pulled up. I drove home slowly, every sense sharpened, every mirror watched. Nothing followed me. That was becoming the pattern. Whatever this was didn't need to announce itself anymore. It knew I was listening. The dreams came back after that. Not images, sensations. The feeling of slowing down. The moment when your foot eases off the gas without conscious thought. The way the car seems to glide instead of roll. The subtle shift in sound when rain stops being background noise and becomes the only thing you can hear. I would wake up with my heart racing and the certainty that I'd been very close to something important. Something final. The voice didn't speak for a long time. That scared me more than when it did. When it finally returned, it wasn't on the road, it was in my apartment. I was lying in bed, rain tapping against the window, when I heard it. Not in my head this time, but not exactly in the room either. It felt like it was coming from behind me, just out of reach, close enough to feel breath without warmth. "You're getting better at not running." I didn't move. I didn't respond. My body felt heavy, like gravity had increased slightly. The rain outside sounded distant, muted. "I don't want this," I whispered. There was a pause. Not silence. Attention. "You never did." The weight lifted suddenly. The room felt normal again. My heart pounded, but nothing else happened. No footsteps, no movement, just rain and darkness. After that, the understanding came slowly. The road wasn't a place, it was a process. It didn't exist on maps because it didn't need to. It appeared where conditions were right. Fatigue, isolation, hesitation. It didn't force itself on anyone. It didn't take people who fought. It didn't chase. It waited for people who slowed down, people like me. Once you gave it that first moment, once you let yourself hesitate, it learned you, your habits, your instincts, your limits. It didn't need you to stop completely, just enough to let it ride with you, to share space, to finish the journey later. The final night came quietly. No storm, no warning, just a steady rain that started after sunset and didn't stop. I hadn't planned to go anywhere. I was tired, worn down in that deep way that sleep doesn't fix. When my phone buzzed with a notification, I ignored it at first. Then it buzzed again. Navigation alert. I looked at the screen. A route was already set. The road name was blank, no destination, just a line stretching forward. I sat there for a long time listening to the rain, feeling the familiar pressure build. I could have turned the phone off. I could have stayed where I was. But something inside me, something tired and honest, knew this wasn't about choice anymore. This was about completion. I grabbed my keys. The drive felt familiar in a way that made my chest ache. Rain on glass, wipers moving, streetlights blurring. The city thinned out naturally without resistance. Roads emptied. Turns presented themselves exactly when I needed them. I didn't check my mirrors. I didn't need to. The headlights were there when the world narrowed enough to make space for them. Yellow, patient, already behind me. The county road appeared without an exit sign. One moment I was on smooth pavement, the next I wasn't. Trees closed in, reflectors vanished. The rain sounded closer, heavier, like it was pressing down instead of falling. The GPS went black. The engine sound changed. Not louder, not quieter, just different. Like the air around the car had thickened. The stranded car waited ahead. Hood up, door open, inside, light glowing softly. I pulled over. The car behind me stopped too. For the first time, I turned the engine off. The rain didn't sound loud anymore. It sounded complete. The passenger door opened on its own. Something sat down beside me, not heavy, not light, present. "You made it," the voice said. I didn't feel afraid. That surprised me. "I don't know what happens now," I said. "You don't have to," it replied. "You just have to stop driving." I looked ahead at the empty road, rain streaking across the windshield, wipers still moving out of habit even though the engine was off. Left, right, left, right. I turned them off. The silence felt enormous. For the first time since this began, nothing was waiting. When I woke up, it was morning. Sunlight filtered through the trees. Birds made noise somewhere nearby. My car was parked neatly on the shoulder of a familiar road, engine cold. No rain, no mud, No handprints. The passenger seat was empty. I drove home slowly, carefully. I still drive sometimes, but not at night, not in the rain. And when I feel tired enough to hesitate, when I feel that instinct to slow down, I pull over somewhere safe, somewhere bright, somewhere human. Because I understand now. The road doesn't end, but the ride does. If you stop in the right place,